Hello everyone, this is Randy I. You're joining me on a beautiful August summer day in Northern Ontario. We're looking at a pristine lake, some amazingly beautiful clouds. Lovely trees, and of course, families playing. You're not going to get better than this. We have groups of people who are going to the water with their canoes. Always a favorite pastime in Canada is canoeing. Pierre Elliott Trudeau, who was the father of Justin Trudeau, once said that a Canadian is someone who knows how to make love in a canoe. I've always liked Pierre Elliott Trudeau a little bit better than Justin. Justin, I feel, is less competent. We're going to do a little walking tour today, just of the area, and we'll explore some of the people, nature, plants, and wildlife of this particular provincial park. And of course, you can't do this without wearing a yellow suit. So here I am wearing a yellow suit, which is the only way that you can explore nature, or at least the best way. I highly suggest always wearing a yellow suit in nature. Canada is a great country because you have lots of land and scenes like this, beautiful spaces where you can be in the outdoors and just be one with nature. I remember as a little kid, I would go camping quite often with my school, and we would go out into the woods, into provincial parks, very similar to this. It was always a really fascinating experience as a little kid to go camping. I was never a very naturey person or a very athletic person growing up, but it was still a lot of fun just to explore, being in the woods. I highly recommend that for everyone to be in the woods, and also to take your kids into the woods, because children need interaction with nature, and not just staying at home with the internet and computer games. There's a little beach area over here, which is very cute.
Fluid.
This is interesting. Looks like a net of some type. Maybe someone is trying to catch a fish, or maybe a butterfly. Now this is a nice view. You can see the clouds and the reflection of the clouds dancing in the water, and the tiny little waves. Such a nice view. Now, a little bug has landed. Oh, it's disappeared. All right. A little bug did land on my suit, but I will allow it. He asked for my consent. Ah, nature. Gotta love it. We gotta preserve it too, because there's gonna be a time in the future when this is going to be it's gonna be more rare to be able to enjoy nature. Water is gonna be such a precious resource in the future. What I'm looking at here, water, right? Water, fresh water especially. Canada has some of the largest, if not the largest, reserves of fresh water in the world. It's probably number 1 or number 2 in the world. But water is going to be a huge issue. Fresh water. Yeah, there's more salt water, obviously, in the world because of the oceans and the seas in the world that are salt water than fresh water. So it's going to be a big issue in the future as we run out of water. Or we're not using it properly, or we're not distributing it properly. So water is going to be an issue. There's some people who say water is going to be the new oil, in that there's going to be a big fight for water in the future. Who knows? That could be an interesting time to have such levels of water scarcity. But there's already water scarcity in the world, right? A lot of places, especially with climate change, a lot of places in the world don't have access to fresh water, or they used to have access to fresh water and they don't anymore. Certain lakes are drying up in places in the world. So humanity is going to be facing these particular challenges. Yeah, don't forget that water is one of our most precious, if not most precious resource in the world. I mean, the body is, is mostly water. We need it. It's the one of the keys to life on Earth. And fresh air as well, right? Like, I'm very lucky right now that I get to breathe fresh air. And it is very fresh and it's nice. But in many places in the world, the air is not very fresh. Many urbanized areas in the world right now, and non-urbanized, industrial areas where fresh air is a luxury because of air pollution and smog. I remember a couple years ago I was in Beijing, China, and the smog was so bad that you could hardly go outside. It was covered, it was like fog, like just smoky, white, gray, dense air. Not just seeing it from the distance, but actually you would be in it, which was just really, really crazy. And the entire city was covered in it. Anywhere you went, you had to wear a mask. So don't take fresh air for granted, because it too is a very precious resource and one that's vital for our survival.
Like, even if you have a $5 glass.
And it would have caused me to win the mug.
Oh, yeah. Want me to try? No, we're good. I'll do it. Yeah, I feel like I can make it. I feel like I can. Yeah, my tail doubled down my throat. That's why last time I did on this, but I told him. Oh, where's that sun?
Yeah, that's what I'm waiting for it to move.
You go in? Going for bed? You want to come in?
And I'm back.
Yeah. Yeah, uh-huh.
So I'm going to share with you an interesting thought that I had about what the future could potentially look like. And this is just one vision of the future. I actually hope it doesn't come to pass. It it would be actually much better for humanity if this were not the future. But I've been having this thought about what the future could look like in terms of access to nature and access to the enjoyment of nature, right? So what I'm doing right now is walking around on I guess this would be a beach, a small sandy beach in nature. I guess this is in nature. I mean, there's people here, but I would call this in nature, where access to this, to all of these things that I get to enjoy, right? The sounds, the smells, the sight of being in nature, surrounded by fresh water and clean air and the trees. This may be in the future less and less accessible for the average person, and this could be more and more something that only rich people get to enjoy. And I'll explain why. Now, land and nature and the wilderness, it's slowly decreasing, right? We're getting rid of a lot of the nature that we have in the world, right? The Amazon rainforest is being cut down and replaced with cattle ranches. Certain parts of the world are drying up or becoming uninhabitable due to climate change. We're destroying much of nature for different reasons, either incidentally or intentionally. So, and as we grow, right, as our population grows, as we create more urban centers, there's just going to be less land, right? Less natural land. Certain provincial parks, like this one, may eventually be turned into urban settings or parking lots, residential areas developed into, commercial centers, tourist attractions. Who knows? But the pristine nature that we know and love, that in 50 to 100 years, a lot of people would I think have less access to it, to be able to have access to this, to all of this, to campgrounds, to water, to the beach. So in this dark theory of mine, those who can't afford to enjoy nature will obviously just be at home, right, in their small little apartments, in very concentrated, dense urban areas. And the people who live in these areas, in these dense, you could almost think of them as like hive societies, if I were to use an analogy using ants and bees, like sort of a hive society of humans on top of humans in highly urbanized areas. How are these people who can't afford to go out into nature because there's just so little of it left, what are they going to do? Well, they're mostly going to be in virtual reality. So these people are mostly going to be hooked up to cyber reality, through the internet or the future version of the internet. We know that there's already people who are developing Neuralink technology, who are trying to link the mind and the brain directly to the cyber world, to cyber reality. So you may have in the future a great group of people who are living in cyber reality, actually living in cyber reality. They're not in the physical reality that we see as reality anymore, right? This physical reality, all of this that you see right now. This may actually be itself a resource. I'm not talking about the water or the air, but the physical reality of this, being in the world, being physically able to touch things, to be outdoors. That itself, the space, the opportunity to be in this space, that itself may actually become a precious resource, and one that's not accessible to a large number of the public. So you end up having a situation where the majority of people don't move a lot, right? They stay in one place in these hive societies, in highly urbanized areas, with their mind connected to cyber reality, right? To images and videos, and simulated augmented reality that simulates this, so that they'll think they're here, but they're not actually here. And then the rich people, the people who can afford to be in nature, going to the few spots that are left, they will be able to enjoy real reality, at least traditional reality. That for thousands of years humans took for granted. The very nature of being able to go outdoors may shift from something that is more egalitarian in that everybody can go outdoors, to a situation where not everybody can go outdoors, and a lot of people can't or can't afford to. And this here that we see, this here becomes a privilege, right? The ultimate privilege, in a way, to be able to exist and interact with nature. It's a weird thought that this becomes no longer accessible to the majority of the human population, and that this becomes a vanity statement for the very rich. Right? It's like having your luxury bag or your fancy jet, your yacht, your huge mansion. It becomes like that. To be able to be in nature becomes a vanity statement, not simulated nature, but real nature. It becomes a mark of status. It becomes a sports car, right? Or other, a Rolex watch, a Lamborghini. It becomes that, to be able to enjoy this. And I don't think we're that far from this particular dark future that I'm predicting. Again, with the destruction of natural spaces, and also with inflation, with the rise in prices. We already can see that travel has become more expensive. Airline tickets have gone up in price. So fewer people are traveling. I know a lot of people who are not traveling as much because of how just expensive it is. So with the combination of price being, prohibitively priced, with the alternatives of simulated reality and cyberspace, and combined with the destruction of nature, this here, indeed, in the future, could be a very rare resource, a privilege for the very few. Now imagine that for a second. Imagine that for a second, that this, which currently most people have access to, if they wanted to. At least in Canada, if you wanted to have this, you could come here. It's not that hard to get here. But the trees, the water, the clouds, the sky, it's just for a small group of elite people in the future to actually experience it. I was in South Africa a couple years ago, and you just assume, and maybe this was a silly, uneducated assumption of mine, that most people in South Africa have seen a lion before, because it's advertised as a place where you can go on safaris, and lions are everywhere apparently. And I talked to some local South African people, and they had never seen a lion. Just never seen it. So I thought that it was accessible, but obviously going to a safari, seeing a lion in the wild, is a privilege. So, and if you can't afford to go to a safari and buy the tickets to the park and rent the equipment or get the rental for the large ranger trucks, then you're not going to be able to see a lion, even though you live in a country where there are many lions. So that surprised me, and maybe that came from a very ignorant place, and I admit that. But that actually surprised me, that a lot of people in South Africa had not seen lions, and it's stuff like that, right? Where you live in a world where in theory certain things are accessible to you because they're there, but then large groups of people can't actually experience these things because it's just too expensive. So I like to think that it's really important just to enjoy the state of the world as it is right now. Like, truly, enjoy the state of the world right now as it is, because it's changing so quickly, and without our consent, it's changing without us being able to control the change or the pace of the change. It's just changing rapidly, exponentially. The social changes, the technological changes, the cultural changes. It feels sometimes we're small little fish in a very large current, and we're just being blown left, right, and center, pushed by forces beyond our control, larger forces. Feels that way sometimes. So it's nice to sometimes come to a place where things are not changing that much, or at least the perception that things are the same. During the start of the pandemic in 2020, I was actually relieved that the world, for a period of time, was at a standstill. Right, everybody was at home. We were in lockdown at the time, and the world was, to a large extent, in standstill. We just stayed in one place. We stayed home. There was not too many changes. Obviously, the pandemic was happening, and we were scared, and there was, COVID and all this crazy stuff. So obviously, there was a huge change that happened, right? That we were in the middle of a gigantic seismic shift that lasted, at least in Canada, for at least 2 years in terms of the lockdowns. But during that seismic shift, there was also a calm within that storm, and the calm was when we were, at least in the beginning, in lockdown. It seemed like the world was at a standstill, right? People weren't going outside. There were no events, no big inventions during that time, no new entertainment. It seemed like we were just going to recycle the same old stuff for a period of time. And that was actually quite relieving and comforting for me, that the world, for a couple months, in some strange way, stood still. And it's nice to be able to enjoy a world that stands still just for a little bit, and maybe just find peace in what we have, rather than trying to seek out what we don't have, and to innovate and to create and to be ambitious and to keep pushing, right? We're known to, as the human race, to push. These Silicon Valley tech bros, they're always trying to push. make more money, invent more stuff, change the world, disruptive technology. Why disrupt anything, right? Why? I mean, look at what we have. Look at this beautiful stuff that we have. Why disrupt this? Like, is there really a need to disrupt all of this just so you can, you know, say that you're number one, that you've disrupted all of this? You can get your name into Forbes magazine, get venture capital investments, you know, change the world. Maybe changing the world is just not changing anything. Maybe changing the world is just not changing anything. Maybe things are perfect the way they are. Okay, I'm gonna walk down this particular pathway. I must look pretty awkward, or well, maybe not awkward, but I certainly stand out wearing a suit in the middle of the woods. But that's just me. I like wearing my suit everywhere I go. Given the opportunity, I wear a suit to bed.
I'm sure you can walk there.
No, you're too big for that. Can I do it too?
Did you do it?
Yeah, can I do it?
What? Pardon? Huh? Rock. I'll tell you when he has it. Or maybe we can just take it. No. Can't go right now.
I hope you've enjoyed the little tour today. Don't forget to take a deep breath and relax. Stop to smell the roses or the coffee or whatever you like to smell. It's important to take some time off for yourself. We're all very busy. There's a lot of pressure. Anxiety is a huge issue that I think most of us experience to some extent, and stress in our daily lives, in our family lives, and in the workplace. It's a stressful world, right? It's stressful to live in today's world. There's a lot of pressure. There's so many changes. There's things that we can't control. But take a deep breath. Everything's gonna be okay. I'm gonna be fine. You're gonna be fine. I'm okay. You're gonna be okay. We are all going to make it at the end. Don't forget to take a deep breath, relax, enjoy what's around us, and just be present. If there's anything that I've learned as to the secret to life, it's just being present. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see all of you in the next video.